can you just, how did the night unfold? How did you see it from the start there?
Yeah, we were excited. We're trying to be flexible. We have, obviously last night we were super excited to add Behringer, and we were trying to, maximize the pick. We have a lot of young guys on the roster. Want as much flexibility as possible going in free agency, so we're trying to move around a little bit. And then we were super lucky to add Rocco Zakarski, 18-year-old kid out of Brisbane. 7'3", no shoes. Was a very good competitive swimmer. I think near Olympic level prior to getting into basketball. So we're fired up. I think he's certainly a long-term play, but a guy that trained locally, so he has an appreciation for Minnesota. He really enjoys being around there. We had a great workout with him, and we had him much higher on the board. And again, it's fun to add young players, that energy, and we're fired up.
Does he stay overseas, do you think, for a little bit, Tim? Or
there's a couple different options. He could stay overseas. Certainly there's the G League. We want to maximize Iowa, so we're not sure. But we want to ensure that he's going somewhere where his development continues.
Tim, I guess just as you were just analyzing how the draft unfolded overall, you stayed at 17, you moved around. Kind of what was the impetus to stay at 17 and select Johan there, or maybe some of the moves that were on the table at the time?
Yeah, Johan was, I hate to say our guy because I'd be lying if I said he was number one on our board. The kid in Dallas is pretty good. But he was a guy that we were fortunate enough to have a workout with recently. We followed closely. It's such a unique story. This is his first year playing professional basketball. Literally started playing basketball because he outgrew his soccer cleats. He's a striker. And as we watched him more and more, he goes to Ceta Vida in Slovenia, expecting to be a second division player, just working on his skills. And every time we watch him, we're kind of blown away with his instincts, especially for a guy that's barely played basketball. Defensively, he was covering 5 spots, and he's very raw but really bright, and has developed at a pace that, quite frankly, I've never seen for a guy that new to professional basketball. So he was our guy when the night started, and we were very fortunate he was there.
I wonder is the value of those workouts, especially I guess late in the process of just maybe solidifying feelings, or what do you get out of those, seeing a guy just up close and personal and getting the chance to talk to him?
I think talking to him is the best. We have a pretty good sense of what they can and cannot do. Johan came over late because he was in the Slovenian League playoffs, but really talking to a guy, and you're not going to get to know someone that well in an hour or 2 hours, but you do get a sense of what their expectations are, both personally and from a team sense. And he was wise beyond his years. I'm sorry. He went to Slovenia, couldn't speak English, and now he speaks English probably better than I do. So again, the story's awesome. We're not drafting because of the story, but I was blown away relative to how little he's played and how far he's come. And it's like 29th to 30th draft, and he's one of the more unique players I've ever seen.
Was there anything in the on-court stuff where you're like, oh, maybe that's better than I even thought? Or?
Well, he had a really hard workout. It was kind of an old school workout in a high school gym. We had Allonzo G kind of playing 1-0, and Allonzo played in the league for 8 years, so his defense is what allowed him to play in the league for 8 years, respectfully. And it was a really hard workout in the end. I said, can you dunk from the free throw line? And he dunked from the free throw line. That was memorable. Yeah.
Oh, that.
In today's, sorry, I'm blanking on my thoughts.
Defensive versatility, is that probably the biggest thing that's attractive to him right now?
The thing that he can do now is guard. It's a very tough league. That league's produced, a lot of really good players. Countless NBA players have gone through the ABA League, and his ability to guard not just 5, but all over the court. He's one of the rare elite athletes vertically and laterally. So I think he's going to hang his hat on defensive versatility. And offensively, we don't know what he is. He's right now he's a sprint the floor. He's a lob threat. He's an offensive rebound, kind of a garbage guy around the rim. But it's really exciting, and especially because we have such great coaches, is he's really malleable. So however we want to develop him, we can develop him. He's coming from a great development school in Ceta Vida. They have great coaches. It's just exciting to see a guy that has all these crazy tools and really no bad habits.
Your second line guys are almost all of them are switchable, and that's kind of what you're looking for here. I imagine gives you a lot more,
Yeah, I think again, you always love your draft picks. Time will tell, but relative to his ability to guard multiple positions, I don't think we have any doubt. I hope you guys will see it soon in Vegas. He's just an elite athlete. A lot of athletes are elite in one area. They can jump or they can run, but he can do both. And he never gets tired. He's from the soccer background. He's really obsessed with his body and trying to get better and better. He's gained I think 24 pounds this year. So his ability to guard all over the court is something that really excites us.
Tim, can you just take us through the process tonight of moving around the board and obviously trading back and then trading back again with some of the cast considerations and everything?
Yeah.
What goes into that?
I mean, it was done with our present roster in mind. We have some free agents we want to retain. Certainly we have some first and second apron issues that we want to be cognizant of. So there was players we really liked, but you can't get draft fever and just add. So when we kind of looked at the board and we were aware of what the offseason might look like, and it essentially starts in a day or two, we thought moving down and picking up assets that are down the line. Assets that hopefully we can utilize either with a pick or in a trade. So we've obviously traded a lot of picks. So any chance we have to kind of restock some of the pick inventory that we were lacking previously, and also just keep those things in play. Draft night's so much fun, but sometimes it's like when you buy a car. I mean, you drive it off a lot, you lose half the value. So we want to keep as many balls in play. So it was fascinating. Again, I think it was fun. The second night is kind of weird though. There was as the day progressed, we've never had the 31st pick. It's fairly new. It was really curious how agent driven the second round became. I think we called players left and right, and there was 20 deals done before that draft even started. So it was fun. It was interesting. 31's fun, but it's maybe not as fun as we thought it was going to be.
Yeah, does that change? Does that become more of a thing now with this 2-day system? Or?
It's the first time we've had 31. I think everything except 31 is the same.
Okay.
But it was interesting. It was, I think you just want to be as flexible and nimble as possible. And we were lucky. We walked away with a couple of future assets. We walked away with roster flexibility. We walked away with a guy in Zakarski that we had, more highly ranked than the 45th pick, and a guy that has a real puncher's chance. He's he can move really well for his size. His dad was an Olympic swimmer. He's a really unique project and prospect and a really good kid.
Tim, you mentioned free.
You mentioned free agents a minute ago.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Chris.
Yeah.
Perfect. Can you just characterize kind of those conversations with their agents, kind of where you
Yeah,
feel you're at going into next week?
Yeah, very positive. We have several free agents, but certainly we have 3 guys in rotation that could be free agents. A couple guys with player options. Nikhil will be free. All deserving of a lot of attention both here and outside these doors. It's exciting. What's exciting is when you have a good team and the guys want to be back here. So we'll see. We have some limitations financially. We want to make sure that we avoid that second apron. But we're really, really excited about the direction of our team. We're excited that the guys who are free all want to come back.
Tim, what's the order of operations like for you, where it goes the draft and then it's free agency, and you don't, in this year, you don't know exactly what your other players are going to be on the roster when you're drafting. How is that complicated?
That's a good question. It's become one to some degree. I mean, there's pre-agency is not a real thing, but there's the innuendo and rumors, and you hear things. It used to be a clear break. All right, the draft, you breathe, this is your family, and then you go back to it. Now it just kind of melds into one. We're in a unique situation. Our free agency is going to be primarily focused on our own guys, so we have a little more flexibility and freedom than we would if we're looking elsewhere. But I'm very much looking forward to, 4 or 5 days from now, and kind of a little bit of normalcy and just hanging out with the kids and my wife, because it's nonstop for the last couple weeks.
Tim, do you think, is it mostly right now focused on your guys? Do you see any trade scenarios that might come about for rotation types of players that you're
Yeah,
pursuing or
we're
keeping?
always talking. I mean, I wouldn't believe all the rumors that are always written the last couple of weeks.
Right.
But we're always talking. We're always, until we win it all, we got to challenge ourselves, right? We're happy with the team, but we're still not content with the outcome last year. I think after tonight, the league kind of takes a collective breath, and I think a lot of the incumbent free agents will know soon, are they going to stay or are they going to hit the open market. It's an interesting market. There's not a ton of available capital for these guys, but that could spur even more and more trades. So, we're always talking. We don't have anything cooking at the moment, but I think tomorrow morning you'll see teams put up their depth chart, and then those calls will start more earnest.
Did you think you come into this week and we're going to get a couple of 18-year-old 7-footers?
I was hoping to get 14.5 4
Yeah.
combined, and I achieved that goal.
Yeah.
That was the goal. And we were trying to really grow both our Austrian and French audience.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to get an Irish kid right now for summer league, so that'd be cool. He's asleep as we speak.
Don't forget the soccer swimmer crowd.
Yeah, it is. And Rocco's dad, they were German, so there's that's cool as well. Rocco, I just was told he can dunk without jumping, which is a cool, kind of a cool thing to do.
What's the required standing reach on that?
9'7".
Okay.
Yeah. 9'7". It's about 3 inches taller than your standing reach. Right?
Yeah, that's
No, we're excited. I mean, Behringer was a guy that we focused on, and quite frankly, we didn't think he was going to be there. And we were active trying to ensure we were going to get him, and so much of it's luck. I mean, the draft board, 16 really, really good players went before him, so that's not said, not to say that we got the best player by any stretch, but the draft board fell a certain way, and we were lucky we got our guy. We think he's an unbelievable piece to add to our young core. I think he's different than everything we have. He's a 5, I think, who can defend 4s, and he's switchable, maybe 3s. So that was a real focus. We could not be more excited for him, and we had him unbelievably high on our board. And then when today started, we were trying to really extend our window of assets and add a player. And we liked Rocco. We think he's developed under a really good coach in Australia. I think you'll be surprised to watch his skill set given his size. And we'll cross our fingers. These guys are going to work hard, and hopefully in a couple of years they'll develop into something that we can really trust and help us win more games.
Tim, you went kind of bigger and not point guard. Is it kind of more of a testament of what you think Rob can do for you, kind of going into year 2?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we were open to any position.
Yeah.
I guess it was unlikely at 17. The one position we probably would not look at was a straight 2 guard.
Yeah.
With our depth there, but we were going to take best available. With really not eye for 5s and potentially 1s, but I think Rob looks fantastic. I think he had moments when he played last year that were not just impactful for himself, but they were impactful for team success, which is really the ultimate mark for a point guard. So we're excited. He brings a dynamic element that we lack otherwise. I think we'll have a bigger role, but I think the coolest thing about our environment right now is you got to earn it. Finchie's done a great job of challenging our young guys, where they all had moments, especially Shannon and Clark and Josh and Rob, and now how do you build off those moments? And I think they've all created a bit more trust with the coaching staff, which should allow them to take on bigger and more prominent roles.
Do you think the trust is there with Dillingham to take on an accelerated role?
Yeah, I
The
think
team
so.
that's built to win right now.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think we just saw the championship team is very youthful. It was the youngest team to ever win it all. I think our environment has allowed these guys to really grow, even if it's not always growing in front of our eyes in the main games. And I just trust that a handful of our young guys are ready to take that jump, and I think Finch shares that same faith.
So there's different types of 5s. You can have a stretch 5 and with Rudy more of a rim protector, and then around the basket on offense. It seems like Behringer is that way too. Do you feel like those guys have become a little bit overlooked? Because in a way, you're kind of doubling down on not playing 5 out.
Yeah, I don't think with Behringer, that's Rudy's birthday day too. Happy birthday, Rudy. How do you say that in French?
Bon anniversaire.
No, yeah, there's one person went to a good school.
Or something.
Yeah, it's funny with Behringer. I don't really know what he is. I don't know what he is offensively. I mean, he's not going to shoot 3s right now. He's probably he's a decent mid-range shooter. He has a pretty good handle, and he's really quick to attacking the basket. But to your point, I don't know. The rage obviously was stretch bigs. And tonight we saw how many bigs went. Most of them weren't stretch bigs. We saw Hartenstein's impact. Obviously, he doesn't really look at shots behind the arc anymore. So I think you just get good players. But I do think switchability is something that is invaluable. And I think Behringer, as he grows up and kind of gets more of a feel, not just for the game of basketball, but the NBA, I think he could be as good a switchable defender as he is in the league.
Tim, we heard Mark and Alex over the last couple of days here talk about luxury tax and being willing to pay that. In your conversations with them, as you maybe think about the long-term planning of whether you're going to be a first apron team, whatever it's going to require paying the taxes. What are your conversations like with them when it comes to their willingness and ability to pay that, not just this year coming up, but future years?
I mean, those guys are go-getters. They're unafraid of risk, even having the draft room tonight. More. Let's take chances. I think the real impact, easy for me to say because I'm not writing the checks, of the second apron is beyond these huge financial penalties, is it's really hard to transact. So we have to figure out, we have no restrictions relative to building a championship level team, but we have to figure out how do we self-govern ourselves. With this, you get the second apron, you can't aggregate, you can't, it's got to be dollar for dollar, you can't take cash back and trips. There are all these things that, the whole league's learning. It's still a fairly new CBA, so there's nothing that we won't have at our disposal to build a championship level team. And relative to the dollars, I think it's more, is the cost justify it? And can we transact in a way that allows us to stay flexible?